She laughed at his fragile bones until he lifted a living tiger over his head and proved the reverse. The arena was carved into the mountainside, a pit of stone and dust where thousands of voices rose in cruel delight. It was a place where warriors were made into legends or corpses. And today the crowd hungered for the latter. Kalin stood barefoot in the sand, his lean body marked with bruises, his chest rising with shallow breaths. He was no gladiator, no soldier, just a man dragged from the villages after his people refused to pay tribute. The warlords loved to humiliate the weak before killing them. It made the blood flow sweeter, they said. On the days above, draped in emerald silk and gold, the warlord's daughter leaned against a carved pillar. She was beautiful, but her eyes burned with cruelty. She studied Kalin as one might study a bug pin to a board. Look at him, she laughed, her voice carrying across the pit. Bones like twigs. He'll snap before he even bleeds. This isn't sport, it's comedy. The crowd roared with agreement. Kalin clenched his fist but said nothing. His throat was parched, his heart heavy. He had no weapons, no training. He was meant to die for their amusement. The gate opposite him rumbled open. From the shadows padded something massive, orange for stripe with black, muscles rippling beneath its pelt. Adder larger than any Kalin had ever seen, its jaws dripping with foam. The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. The warlord's daughter leaned forward, smiling. Now let's see how quickly the bones break. The tiger prowled closer, its paws silent on the sand. Kalin froze. Every instinct screamed to run, but there was nowhere to go. The walls of the pit loomed too high, the crowd leaning over them like vultures. The beast's amber eyes fixed on him, unblinking. Fragile bones, the daughter mocked. They gave you to the wrong match. At least make it entertaining, little twig. The crowd laughed. Kalin closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. He thought of his village burned broken, its people taken as slaves. He thought of his sister dragged away screaming. He thought of the injustice, the cruelty. Rage burned in his chest where fear had been. When he opened his eyes again, something had shifted. The tiger lunged, Kalin moved. Not with the speed of a trained warrior, but with the desperation of a man who had nothing left to lose. He sidestepped, sand kicking up around his bare feet, and threw his arms around the beast's neck. The crowd gasped in disbelief as man and tiger crashed into the dust together. The creature roared, its claws tearing trenches in the ground. Kalin's arms tightened, his ribs screamed with strain, but his grip did not falter. I felt the beast's strength surging against him, and in that moment something inside him answered. Not weakness, not fragility, power. The tiger twisted, but Kalin planted his feet and heaved. The animal's weight fought him, but his muscles surged with a force that felt almost borrowed as the earth itself pushed through his bones. With a guttural cry, Kalin lifted. The tiger rose from the ground. Its paws flailed, its roar split the air, but Kalin held aloft, arms trembling yet unbroken. Sand drained down as he staggered upright, the beast high above his head. The arena fell into stunned silence. For a heartbeat, only the tiger's snarling breath filled the air. Then Kalin roared, not in fear but in defiance. The sound rolled to the pit like thunder. He turned, raising the living tiger higher for all to see. His bones did not snap. His body did not shatter. Instead, he stood like a pillar of stone, the impossible weight above him proof of his strength. Fragile. His voice cracked, but it carried. You call me fragile? Then watch and learn Torivers. The crowd erupted, not in laughter but in shock, awe, even fear. On the days the warlord's daughter's smile faltered. Her mocking eyes widened. She clutched the railing, knuckles white. No, she whispered, shaking her head. Impossible. But it was not impossible. Kalin held the tiger aloft until his arms shook with fire, until the beast's struggles weakened. Then with a mighty heave, he hurled it into the sand. The animal landed hard, dazed but alive, rolling Toit's paws before slinking back into the shadowed gate from which it had come. The gate slammed shut. The pit wassailed. Kalin stood tall, chest heaving, blood and sweat streaking his skin. The frail prisoner they had mocked was gone. In his place stood something else. A man unbroken, unstoppable. The warlord rose from his seat, fury flashing across his face. This trick changes nothing, he bellowed. You will die here, slave. Puth's daughter could not look away. Thaman she had scorned had shattered her certainty with nothing but will and strength. For the first time in her life she doubted. The guard descended, spears leveled. Kalin squared his shoulders, ready to face them. The ache in his arms was unbearable, but a spirit burned brighter than it ever had. When the first guard lunged, Kalin caught the spear shaft, snapped in half, and drove the butt into the man's chest. Another rushed him. but Kalin twisted the broken wood and sent him sprawling. The crowd, once eager for his death, now roared in divided voices, some calling for his blood, others chanting his name. Kalin, Kalin. The chant spread, a rhythm of rebellion. The warlord shouted for silence, but his voice was drowned beneath the rising tide. Kalin fought with fury, every strike fueled by the humiliation, the pain, the memory of Lauder at his fragile bones. His body should have failed him, but it did not. Each moment he grew stronger, as though lifting the tiger had unlocked something deep within, a truth he had always carried. He was not weak. He was not breakable. He was unyielding. By the time the last guard fell, the pit was chaos. Slaves in the upper tiers shouted for freedom. The warlord cursed and called for archers. But Kalin stood in the center of the arena, bloodied yet unbowed, his eyes lifted to the dais. Toher, the warlord's daughter, met his gaze. No laughter remained in her face. Only Awe. And something else. A flicker of fear. "You," Kalin said, his voice but steady. "You call me fragile. Remember this day? Remember the man who proved you wrong." He spread his arms wide, the broken spear in one hand. "Remember the man who lifted a tiger above his head." The crowd erupted again, not in mockery, but in wild, uncontrollable cheers. Some cheered his strength, others as defiance, but all of them cheered. The warlord, red with rage, drew his sword. But before he could speak, his daughter raised a hand. "Father," she said softly, but her voice carried. "If you kill him, you kill more than a man. You kill a legend, and legends do not die quietly." The warlord froze, his eyes narrowing at her betrayal. Kalin stared up at her. For a moment he almost smiled. She had laughed at him once, but now she defended him, if only to keep the crowd from turning. He turned from her, raising his weapon once more. "I am no slave," he said. "I am no fragile twig. I am the storm that breaks chains, and I will not stop until my people are free." The crowd's roar became a battle cry, and for the first time Kalin felt the truth settle in his bones. He had proven the reverse.